Welcome back, everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you what it takes to earn $1,000 a month using the most popular dividend ETFs there are. And from top to bottom, these are the most popular ETFs for dividends that there are. That is the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF, the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, the Vanguard High Dividend Yield ETF, JPMorgan Equity Premium Income ETF, and the iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF. These being the most popular dividend ETFs there are, you probably do own one of these ETFs, and it has probably crossed your mind at one time or the other how you can earn $1,000 a month using these ETFs. So I'm going to get right into it and show you how to do that. And you can apply this to any ETF that you own, whether it be specifically one of these ETFs or a different ETF altogether. Overall, the calculation is very simple. The first thing you want to do is get the yield of the ETF that you want to calculate. So in this case, the yield for VIG is 2.09%. And then since we know $1,000 a month is $12,000 a year, and this yield is per year, the only thing we have to do is figure out how to calculate this. And this is a very simple equation. All we need to do is take the amount of income required, so that is $12,000 per year for that $1,000 per month, and then just divide it by that yield. So you would need about $574,000 invested into VIG to get that $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year. Next up on the list, we have SCHD, and this ETF provides a very nice yield of 3.86%. And we are going to go ahead and do that same thing. We are going to take that $12,000 a year needed and then just divide that by the yield of SCHD. And we get $311,000 of equity needed approximately to get that $12,000 a year or $1,000 a month. So that is quite a bit less than you would need with VIG. And let's move on to the next one. And it looks like VYM is offering the same exact yield of SCHD, so that should keep our math very simple. And this is like deja vu. We already did this, but I am just going to run through it again. We take that $12,000 needed and then just divide that by the yield. And we get the exact same number, of course, because the yields are exactly the same. Next up is JEPI, and this one is going to be interesting to see because this is the highest yielding ETF on this list. This is currently 6.41%. This is a very popular ETF for high yield investors that want that nice dividend every single month. So let's plug that in and see what it takes to get that $1,000 a month. All right, so we want that 12,000 divided by this yield. And again, this is going to be a lot less than the others. So to get $1,000 a month with JEPI, you actually only need about $187,000 in equity, which is very good for those people that want high income but don't have that much equity to put at stake. So they could put $187,000 into JEPI and get that $1,000 a month from that. Whereas all the other ones, you do need quite a bit more. Let's move on to the final one, which is DGRO, commonly known as DGRO. And DGRO is currently offering a dividend yield of 2.67%. Let's go ahead and plug that in. And for the last ETF, let's run through it one last time. We get that 12,000 divided by the yield. So that would take $449,000 just about to get that $1,000 a month. So if we were to rank them in order, we would have JEPI as the best, and then SCHD and VYM tied, and then in fourth place would be DGRO, and then last is VIG. Now these ETFs all kind of have a different investment methodology, so don't just focus on, okay, well, JEPI has the best yield that there is, so I'm going to go and invest in that to get that yield. Definitely look at what this ETF does before you just go ahead and do that. I am just showing you a simple way to calculate yield in itself. Now, speaking about this, it actually does get a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to show you why it is a little bit more complicated than just dividing by the yield itself, just for full disclosure. And since I already have DGRO up, I am just going to use that as an example. All of these funds are pretty much the same in what I am about to say. So with these funds, they usually, except in JEPI's case, pay you every single quarter. So you're not going to be getting a dividend every single month for $1,000. You're going to get that paid every single quarter. So what that is going to average out $3,000 per quarter, which again is going to be $12,000 a year or $1,000 a month. So that's how that's going to average. So if you're doing this math, don't necessarily expect to get that every single month. Expect to get that on average. Now, secondly, if you notice here, these dividend cash amounts are never the same pretty much. They do vary from quarter to quarter based on this payment schedule, whether they're increasing their dividend or whether they're decreasing their dividend, and again, what quarter they are paying. So I'm going to go ahead and show you exactly how to truly calculate the dividend payment, which is slightly more complicated, but it is still pretty easy if you want to know an exact way to see how much you're going to get paid $1,000 a month. So what I did is, again, I'm going to use DGRO as the example, and since DGRO pays every single quarter, what I did was I broke that down into 4 payments of $3,000 because that would give $12,000 a year or $1,000 a month on average. And you are going to need 2 numbers basically. You're going to need the dividend it pays every single quarter per share, and you are going to need the price per share. And then from that, we can calculate the number of equity needed. So we go back to the page and we get those numbers. So I am just going to go ahead and plug the previous 4 numbers in real quick, and I am going to show you that on the Excel spreadsheet. And so we have all of those previous dividend payments all plugged in. So now let's get the current share price. And the current share price of DGRO is going to be $55.60 at market close. So we are going to go ahead and use that. And this calculation is going to assume that this share price was the same for all 4 payout periods. Of course, it wasn't. This is going to fluctuate. So just keep that in mind. If you want to calculate this in the future, you're going to want to use the share price that is the most recent in the current quarter that you're getting that payment toward that closest date. So what we are going to do is divide that required income amount by the dividend amount, and we are going to get the amount of shares you need. So that is going to be 3,000 divided by that dividend amount, and we are going to get 10,065.43 shares, of course, because each one of these shares is going to pay you a dividend of $0.2981, and then if you multiply the dividend amount by this number, which is the amount of shares you would have, you would come up with that $3,000. And then what you are going to do for the final part of the calculation is multiply these shares needed times the share price, and you are going to get that equity there. So you're going to need about $562,000 in equity, and I am just going to drag this equation down for every single month. So of course you see as the dividend amount changes, you will need less and less shares, or if it goes down, you will need, of course, more shares. So we will go down and get that number for every single month. Now again, all of this equity needed is going to change. So I just want to give an example of how it fluctuates based on the dividend amount per month. Now that previous way that I showed you is going to work great because that is going to be an average. I just want to show you how it can fluctuate from quarter to quarter, and don't just rely on the expectation that you're going to get that exact amount of that yield per quarter every single payout. Just understand that that is just an average, and it's not going to give you an exact calculation for that quarter. Now, if you did appreciate the video, leave a like to show that support and subscribe for future content if you're interested. Also, check out the suggested video if you are interested in the top 5 most popular dividend ETFs that dividend investors buy. And I'll see you all in the next video.